Hello YouTubes, welcome back to Telly'sMarineTales. I hope you are all happy, healthy, staying sane in this crazy COVID-19 pandemic that the world is going through at the moment. I know pretty much all of our lives have been drastically changed over the past couple of weeks. For me personally, I'm back at home in Cape Town. South Africa has been under a very strict lockdown over the past 5 weeks. So most of South Africa has been stuck in their home for the past 5 weeks. And I know it's like that in many other places in the world. So we've pretty much all been spending quite a lot of time at home. So I thought, given that, for this video, I would do a book review. I haven't done one of these in ages. I did one like way back when, but I love reading. I love books, and I have been reading quite a bit more over the past couple of weeks because I have been stuck at home. So I thought I'd go through the books that I've been reading. Some are sciencey, some are fiction, so it's a little bit of a mix, but I'll tell you what I enjoyed and what I didn't enjoy. So I hope you enjoy this video. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and yeah, let's get into it. So the first book I'm going to recommend is this one, The Tattooist of Auschwitz by Heather Morris. It's a non-fiction, and it's based on a true story of a guy called Leo Sokolov. I know I pronounced that terribly. Anyway, he was a prisoner at Auschwitz. He was the tattooist, and he tattooed all of the prisoners' numbers onto their arms as they came into the camp. And I decided to read this because my mom bought it, and she absolutely loved it. She really recommended it to me, so I figured I might as well give it a try. And then I read the blurb at the back. I'm just going to read you one sentence quickly. Waiting in line to be tattooed, terrified and shaking, was a young girl. For Lael, a dandy, a jack-the-lad, and a bit of a chancer. It was love at first sight. As soon as I read that sentence, I was like, oh, I don't really know if I want to read this book. I'm not a romantic. I hate romance novels. Love at first sight. Don't enjoy that kind of stuff. Anyway, I figured I might as well give it a try since I had the book already. And I was really pleasantly surprised. It wasn't very emotive in its writing style. It was actually kind of dry and quite factual. And because of that fact, I really enjoyed this book. It gave you a unique perspective and insight into the lives of the people who went through this terrible tragedy. And it put my life into perspective. I mean, yes, we're going through this crazy pandemic at the moment. All of our lives have been turned upside down, but really we're going through nothing compared to what these people went through. So it put my life into perspective. It was informative. It was interesting. So for that reason, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Highly recommend this book. Next book up is a classic. It is Moby by Herman Mellville. It is one of those, like old school classic English fiction books. And I picked it up when I was traveling in the UK a year and a half ago, really cheap. As you can see, the price sticker is still on there. But yeah, I picked it up really cheap. I knew it was a classic, so I thought I'd give it a try. And try I did. I really tried to get into this book. I'm on page 165 out of over 500 pages, but that was it. That was as far as I could get. I mean, I loved the writing style. I loved the poetic, old school, beautiful English that he uses, but just the content was so boring. I mean, yes, we're on page 165. I'd say we're about a quarter of the way through the book, and we've literally just got onto the high seas, and we've just met the captain who has this grudge against the sperm whale. So pretty much everything before that, all that happened was he met his friend that he's now traveling with on the whaling ship, and the rest is all like super descriptive of the place that he stayed, describing the boat, every single freaking room of the boat. There's even a description of how he describes whales and like their family lineage and a little bit of biology, and it was just like the content was very dry and very boring and not for me. So loved the style, not the content. Couldn't get through the book. I've given up. If there's anybody out there who enjoyed it, put it down in the comments below. So onto our first sciencey book of the list, and this is also a special marine biology one. It is called Other Minds: The Octopus and the Evolution of Intelligent Life by Godfrey. This was another book I purchased while I was traveling in the UK about a year and a half ago, and I started reading it last year, but life just got in the way and I never got a chance to finish it. So I figured this was my chance, and I actually restarted it and I finished the whole thing. It's not a particularly long book, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. The author does such a great job of like intertwining fun, quirky stories about octopuses, which I love because they're one of my favorite animals, and then like really informative, interesting facts about intelligence, about evolution, evolutionary theory, biology, all that kind of stuff. And for that reason, I highly enjoyed it. And it's also a mix between like philosophy and science. A lot of the big questions this book tries to tackle is, what is intelligence? What is consciousness? What is being aware of your surroundings like to different animals? And it's really interesting to think about, and it does challenge your brain quite a lot. And the basic premise of this book really is that, you know, the last time octopuses and other cephalopods and humans shared a common ancestor was something crazy like 600 million years ago, a really long time ago. And so our common ancestor was likely this weird worm type thing, which obviously wasn't intelligent. So he puts forward that intelligence really evolved twice, once in us, in the mammal and bird line, and then again in the cephalopod line. So there were like two diverging splits, and intelligence evolved separately twice. And now he's not saying that octopuses have the same type of intelligence that we do. I mean, they're hugely intelligent, but it's a different type of intelligence. And he contrasts that and why, and the different evolutionary pressures that would have led to these different types of intelligences. And one of the cool things about octopuses is that essentially every single one of their 8 arms has such a dense connection of neurons and has such like a neural connectivity that pretty much each of its 8 arms has its own brains, and each arm can function autonomously. So imagine if each of your arms and legs had its own brain, it was doing its own thing, it was reacting to various stimuli without even your brain being aware of it. I mean, your main brain can exert some control over them, but essentially your arms and legs do their own thing and you're not even aware of what they're doing. I think that's just crazy. And thinking about what life would be like that is one of the parts of this book, and I loved it. It was a different way of thinking. And as I said, he does a great job of weaving fun stories, philosophy, science, and for that reason, I highly recommend this book. So the last book I want to talk about, the one that I'm currently reading, is called Lost Connections by Johan Hari. It's on my Kindle. I can't show you the hardcover, but it is about depression, and what causes depression, and maybe potentially what you can do to fix depression. And I suppose you would class it as a self-help book, but I'm not using it for self-help purposes. I'm not depressed. But depression does run in my family, and it is a topic that is close to my heart. So I figured the more I learned about it, the better, you know. And the book states that the whole narrative we as the world get told is that depression is a chemical imbalance in your brain. Therefore, to fix it, you need to take chemical pills, you need to take antidepressants so that you are no longer depressed, you no longer have this chemical imbalance in your brain. But this book shows that that is not necessarily the whole story, and it might not even be the main part of the story. And he believes that the reason why people become depressed largely is because of social things that happen in our lives. And the reason why the book is entitled Lost Connections is because we lose connections with the things that are important in our lives. We lose connections with the people around us, our friends and our family. We lose connection with nature. We lose connection with important values that really mean something to us. And instead we invest a lot of our time and resources into values that don't really provide us with a sense of joy and fulfillment, and we lose connection with our work, and we don't find any value and meaning in our work. And that's just a few of the reasons. There's a lot more in the book, but essentially we lose connections with all of the things in our lives that brings us fulfillment. And then he goes into a whole bunch of anecdotal stories, and he breaks them down, and he shows how different communities and people have overcome these problems and have refound the connections and have overcome their depression without the use of chemical depressants. And it's really interesting, you know, it's a different way of looking at the problem. You know, it should be taken with a pinch of salt. All of these stories are anecdotal. There's not a lot of evidence to back it up. But when you're considering human health issues, and especially something like depression, you have to consider the fact that most of the research that gets done gets funded by these big drug companies that make these antidepressants. So they really want the story to be told that, yes, you need our antidepressants so we can make money. So that is why most of the research on depression focuses around antidepressants and doesn't really focus on these social fixes to the problem. But it is something that we need to start looking at. It's something we need to start doing research on, because there seems to be a lot of promise that by fixing some of these social problems in our lives, we can fix our depression and we can become much happier, healthier, fulfilled people. And if depression is something that affects you or the people you know about it, I suggest reading it and I suggest giving it a go, because as I said, it does provide an alternative way to look at depression. So that's it. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that maybe you got some book recommendations out of it that you'd like to read throughout this COVID-19 pandemic. If you've read any good books in the last couple of weeks, leave it down in the comments below. Once again, please hit the like button, please hit the subscribe button. Until next time, please all stay healthy. Let's get through this COVID-19 pandemic together, and let's all come out the other side as better people, maybe more well-informed people. Until next time, stay healthy, stay happy.